part 2 of my summer 2022 eyeshadow palette collection and declutter. This will be the conclusion of my overall summer 2022 makeup collection and declutter series. I will be doing a lip declutter. That may not go for another month or so. I'm currently testing out some different products. I don't know which ones I actually want to declutter. It'll be a little while before we get to that one, but as far as like the main declutter, the big series, this will be the conclusion to that. If you missed out on any of the other videos in this series, I will have the entire playlist listed down in my description box below. It will also be on the end cards at the end of the video. So definitely check that out if you have missed any of the videos in this current declutter. I do want to put a disclaimer in this video. I keep meaning to put them at the beginning of every declutter video, but just always forget. But I definitely want to put one in this video. First of all, whenever I declutter something, nothing goes to waste. I already have a plan. Some of the products will go to my daughter. If there's something that I pull out to declutter and I know that a friend will enjoy that particular product, then I'll set it aside for them. The rest I do set aside to donate. I am very aware that you can sanitize powder products and donate them, so that is something that I do. If you have ever watched any of my past declutter series, I always mention Project Beauty Share, as well as like local women's shelters that I have, set aside stuff to donate to. So like I said, nothing goes to waste. I have a plan for everything. Also, please do not message me asking me to send you my used makeup. I think it's just very weird. If I don't know you personally, and it's not something that I've set aside to be donated, I only give used makeup products to people that I personally know. I do not give my used makeup to strangers that DM me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. That's just very weird. So please don't do it. With all that being said, let's jump into part 2 of my eyeshadow palette collection and declutter summer 2022. Moving on to part 2 of the big eyeshadow palette collection and declutter, we're going to start with these from Lottie London. These were the My Little Pony collaboration palettes. Yes, Only Dance on Days, Ending with Y. Friendship is My Jam palette. I'm going to go ahead and declutter these. These were the very first 2 palettes that I reviewed in 2022. They're also my first experience with the Lottie London formula, and I gotta say, guys, I just was not impressed, so I'm going to go ahead and declutter these. I will be keeping my Norns palette from Odin's Eye. Like I said, I do not intend to declutter any of my Odin's Eye palettes. This one is stunning. I picked this one up during the Black Friday sale. Beautiful palette. This green right here, Green Chameleon, gorgeous. I'm just pulling them out of the drawer one at a time as I go through them and putting them in piles. Declutter, keep, the routine. This is the Crown Pro palette. This was the very first palette that I ever got in BoxyCharm, and I still love this palette. I got this 2 years ago. It is still beautiful. Gorgeous, warm, peachy color story. The mattes are buttery. The shimmers are so shiny and wet looking. One of my favorite palettes. It will continue to be one of my favorite palettes. This is a Naked Cherry palette from Urban Decay. I will be hanging on to this one. This was a gift from my husband. He was very excited to give this one to me. I'm also going to be hanging on to my Tres Luce I Am palette. It's not my most favorite formula, but it is newer to my collection, and I think it's really pretty. I think it's really cool that the mirror, I don't know why they made it this way, but the mirror actually detaches. So I guess if you want your palette to not have the mirror in it, you can pull that out. The Wanderous Escape palette from Wander Beauty. I did enjoy this palette. This also came out of a BoxyCharm. These shimmers are really pretty. Sea Glass is really pretty. Let me think on this one. I might declutter this one, but I'm going to put this one to the side and come back to it. Definitely going to be keeping my Odin's Eye Freya palette. This one is really pretty. A mixture of warm pinks and oranges. This shade right here is gorgeous. Then we have the Tartlette palette. I think this is my only Tarte palette, if I'm remembering correctly. This is the Tartlette Juicy palette. This is one of my favorites. I need to pull this into a rotation. I have not pulled this one out in a while. It's very soft, warm peach tones and pink tones. This is a very soft palette. Like the mattes are not like super pigmented. The shimmers aren't like super, shiny. But it's a beautiful palette we're putting together. Really beautiful, soft, everyday looks. I definitely need to pull this one into my rotation. I almost forgot about it. Definitely going to be hanging on to my Milani palette. This one I got from Hot Topic. This is the Royal Reflection palette. This one opens up into 3. You have a mirror on each side. These shimmers on this side are so pretty. They're actually some of the prettiest shimmers that I have in any palette that I own. This one, Amuse, still so super creamy. Look at that. Do you see that? Just stunning. My Violet Voss Sakura palette, I definitely will not be decluttering this one. Gorgeous soft pinks and warm toned neutrals in this palette. These shimmers are stunning. We have the Beauty Bay Fiery Matte palette. This one is newer to my collection. This is just a matte palette with some oranges and reds. You know, now that I think about it, I think I might go ahead and declutter that Poppy palette from Colourpop since I have this one. This one performs a little bit better, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to declutter that one since I have this one. This one is newer to my collection. This is from Half Caked. I did a full face trying makeup from Half Caked. I have seen Half Caked show up in my Instagram feed so many times, so I grabbed the palette, I grabbed a cream blush, bronzer, highlighter, and a liquid lipstick. And this is the Pretty Precious palette. There are 9 shades in here. This one is so pretty. It's just a really pretty kind of a cool, neutral, jewel tone palette. This shade right here, Euphoria, so creamy. It's a gorgeous kind of a jewel tone green. Just beautiful. The LA Colors What's the Tea Matcha Mix palette. Do I want to keep or declutter? I did a full face trying on some new products from LA Colors, and this is the palette that I tested out. I'm not sure. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. I'm just going to give this one to my daughter. She doesn't have like many palettes that have green tones in it. I think she'll like this one. Moving on to my larger Colourpop palettes. How many shades are in these? 30 pans. These are 30 pans. All 3 of these are gorgeous. I will be hanging on to all of them. This one, Your Golden. It's really pretty, warm, peachy neutrals. These beautiful pops of blue. This color right here is a little patchy, but the whole palette in general is really pretty. All the mattes are really buttery. The shimmers are really beautiful. This one is so pretty. It's a mood. I mean, just look at that. This row right here reminds me a lot of the High Tide palette. I think that's what it was called, as you saw in the first part of this declutter. Beautiful palette. And then the last one is Stone Cold Fox. This is the one that really grew my love for working with cool tone shadows. I've always been a warm tone girl. I didn't think that cool tones would look good on me, but this palette really showed me how much I love working with cooler tone neutrals. It's a beautiful palette. We are almost done with this first drawer. This is the XX Revolution Kombucha palette. This one is beautiful. This one is an orange lover's dream. This blush right here is a pure pumpkin orange. What I will say is that they could have curated this palette down to about half. A lot of the shades are very similar to each other, like these two right here. Some of the pink shimmers are very close to each other. They could have curated it down just a little bit more, but overall, I do enjoy this palette. I have some more of my Revolution collaboration. These are the Nightmare Before Christmas, the Sally palette and the Jack palette. These I like to put out for display during Halloween. Not my favorite color stories, but I do like the theming. And then we have the Sally palette. Really pretty. And I think this is my last princess collaboration palette. This is the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid is not necessarily one of my favorite princesses, but I just thought this color story was so pretty if I can get it open. I really loved the blushes in here. I just thought they were so pretty. That is the first drawer done. Now we're going to move into drawer number 2. We have my Violet Voss Sun Kiss Summer Palette. Funny story. I ordered this palette, right? And then I was doing my Boxy Charm choice item, where you could pick your choice item. And I picked a Violet Voss palette, not realizing I picked the palette that I already had. So one of you guys is going to be getting that palette in a giveaway. It's really, really pretty. I love these yellow and berry tones in here. This shade right here, Berry Hot, this is kind of a glittery type shade, and usually I don't like those, but this one is just so smooth and so wet looking. It's a beautiful shade. Now the Caring Counts Wet n Wild Care Bear collection. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. Pass this one along to my daughter. I did enjoy working with it, but yeah, it's not one of those that I want to like keep in my collection for the long run, but I know my daughter will enjoy this palette. I'm also going to declutter this one. This is the Sweet Pinks by Juvia's. This made it through my last declutter. It's a pretty little pink palette. I thought maybe I could pull this out for quick pink looks, but I haven't pulled this out once. Not once. I hadn't even pulled this out probably in a few months before I did the last declutter and went on and hung on to it. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one because I know I'm never going to use it. I have another Undereye palette, the Alva Eyeshadow Palette. This one has more neutral tones with some really pretty shimmers in it. This yellow is really, really pigmented. Definitely going to be hanging on to my Kimchi Chic and Naomi Smalls 2 Queens in a Desert Vegan palette. Kimchi Chic is, she's like my favorite. Her and Trixie Mattel, my favorite drag queens. Really, really pretty palette. I'm also going to be hanging on to my Euphoria palette. This is a newer palette to my collection from Profusion. Like I said, the Profusion 10-pan palettes, they are just really, really pretty formulas. I'm going to declutter my Revolution color book. I picked this one up. I think I got it from TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and the reason I got it was because at the time I didn't have anything that had like green and blue tones, but I now have my Earthy palette from Beauty Bay as well as some other palettes that have some really pretty greens in them, and I like those formulas way better than this. This formula is just not at all my favorite, so I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. Definitely hanging on to my Blend Bunny Dollhouse palette. Blend Bunny, as of right now, is launching a new palette. I can't remember what it's called, but it's launching on Friday, I think it is. I will definitely be getting that one. If I did, in fact, order it, it should have arrived, and I probably have already done a video with that one by the time you've actually seen this part of the declutter, because it's not going out a couple of weeks, you know, after I have filmed it. To me, this is the ultimate neutrals palette. I think it is just stunning. It's set up in like columns to make it a little bit easier to put looks together. The 3 rows in the middle are mattes, and then the top and bottom are shimmers, and it is a beautiful formula. I'm definitely looking forward to snagging that new palette. My Lunar Beauty Moonspell Volume 2. I really wanted Moonspell Volume 1, but I missed out on it. I wasn't like really... I had not jumped onto the Lunar Beauty train just yet. Now, Manny has launched some more palettes since this one. None of them have really just stood out to me. But this one is really, really pretty. If I ever get a chance to snag Moonspell 1 without having to spend, you know, $200 for it on Macari, I'm definitely going to try to get it. But this is a beautiful palette. The cover is designed to look like a spell book. Really pretty. Definitely going to be hanging on to my Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. This was the first palette I ever got from Beauty Bay, and just look at this. It's gorgeous, grungy mattes with the really beautiful jewel-toned shimmers. Gorgeous. I'm also going to be hanging on to my Tati Beauty palette. Tati had to close her doors. She was in the middle of a lawsuit, and I guess she just was not able to get past it and ended up having to shut down Tati Beauty. So unfortunately, this is the only palette from the brand. It's not my favorite formula. I will tell you that right now. I do think the mattes could be a little bit better, and I'm not too super fond of the pressed glitters, but it's, you know, it's kind of history, as it were. So for now, at least, I'm going to continue to hang on to this one. Definitely going to hang on to my e.l.f. Chipotle palette. This was a collaboration with Chipotle. This was limited edition, unfortunately. I wish they had made it permanent, because this is one of the most beautiful formulas that they have launched. When it comes to e.l.f., e.l.f. is like Makeup Revolution Milani, where like the eyeshadow palette formulas can be hit or miss, especially with e.l.f. You can have one palette that's beautiful formula like this, and then another palette where you're like, what? It's just completely different, not the same at all. But this one is really beautiful. I do wish that the names of the shades were actually written in the palette. They're written on this little sheet, so you have to keep it, otherwise you're like, you won't know what the names of the shades are, which kind of sucks. Ooh, y'all, it is 8 o'clock in the evening as I'm filming this, and my back, ooh. After we finish filming this, I am jumping in the shower. This is the Ace Beauté Nostalgia palette. Really pretty, bright color story. I believe that Ace Beauté has since launching this palette and like the first ones, I've reformulated from what I heard. So I believe this is the original formula. I have not tried the new formula yet, but I do like this one. This one I am definitely going to declutter. This is the NYX Professional Makeup Tiger Energy Palette. This was their Lunar New Year palette for 2021. And you guys, this formula sucks. The palette, like the packaging and everything, is really cute. But the formula, this is awful. No pigment. The shimmers have absolutely no shine. When it comes to NYX, I swear it's like their eyeshadow formula, they just cannot seem to get it together. So yeah, we're definitely going to pull this one out.
I wanted to wear a wife beater for bed tonight.
Oh, I know what you're
saying. I
saying.
can't find any of my wife beaters.
That's because they're probably all still dirty downstairs. I haven't even washed yet. When did you need them for? Oh, yeah, they're downstairs. I just didn't wash them yet because it was a really small load.
Okay.
So I was just waiting. Yeah, they're down there. They just have not been washed. The e.l.f. Jacuzza Palette. This has made it through my last couple of declutters. I have not pulled this out, you guys, in a long time. Let me see. What do I think? You do a little swatchy swatch here. The shimmers are still kind of creamy. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. It is not performing the way that it did when I first got it. And I have not pulled this one out in months, like literally. I don't think I'd pulled this out since maybe a couple of months since before doing my last declutter. That's how long it's been since I've used it. I have enjoyed it and I thought it was a pretty palette. But yeah, I haven't used it and I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to. I know somebody else out there will love this palette, so I'm going to pass this on. I'm going to be hanging on to my other two Beauty Bay palettes that I have in here. The Love Notes palette. This was their, I guess, romantic Valentine's Day themed palette. This one has some pretty neutrals and pinks and purples. The shimmer formula here is not, I would say, I don't enjoy it as much as the one from the Wilderness palette or the Age of Opulence palette, but it is a beautiful color story. They did recently launch a rainbow kind of palette, but I don't know, that one just didn't really speak to me, so I didn't get that one. But this is the Age of Opulence palette. I heard so many people saying that they grabbed this one because they missed out on the Book of Magic palette. I guess that must have been like before I was like really into makeup, because I've never heard of that palette, but apparently there were a lot of people that missed out on it and grabbed this one because it had a similar color story apparently. But this one has just gorgeous jewel-toned mattes, jewel-toned shimmers. Just a stunning color story. The last palette in this drawer, this is also, I think, my last Nomad palette. This is the Haunted Europe. Actually, I think the holiday one is in the last drawer. But this is the Haunted Europe palette. I don't know if you can see it. The cover kind of shifts. This is a bigger palette. This one has 18 shades. This shade right here is so pretty. This is kind of a grungy, more darker, deeper, richer color story. Really pretty. We are now down to our very last drawer and the very end of this declutter, and it's been a big one. This is from Shop Miss A. This is the Wildflower Palette. This is single shallots in a magnetic palette. Now this is a thing. I really don't like the shades in here. I want to pull these out, but I want to keep the magnetic palette. I'm just trying to figure out how I can go about like moving these somewhere else, or like maybe giving them to someone else without having to give them the palette, because I really, really love this magnetic palette. So I'm going to put this one to the side until I can figure out what to do with the shadows on the inside. Maybe I can put them in a Ziploc bag or something and just pass them on that way. I have no idea. I have to figure that out. This one is my very first Aether Beauty palette. This is the Desert Sunset palette. I got this one in BoxyCharm. This was one of my choice items. I did enjoy working with this palette. Is it the best formula I've ever used? No, but I do like the grunginess of this palette, so I'm going to hang on to it a little bit longer. I've heard like hits and misses, you know, like mixed reviews where the Aether Beauty palette or the Aether Beauty formula is concerned, but so far I'm enjoying this one, so I'm going to keep it for now. My two Milani salt and pepper palettes. I got these strictly because of the nostalgia of it all. I loved salt and pepper. Hot, cool, and vicious. I love the fact that the palettes are designed to look like CDs, which I thought was like really cool. Do I want to hang on to these? That is a question. It's not my most favorite formula, but I bought these for nostalgia reasons. And you know what, guys? I'm going to keep them kicking on the collection for now. The It's freaking Bats palette. This was the Butte Bean Ixral. She's not Batty Bean. This is when she was Butte Bean. This is Betty Jean. I absolutely love her. I think she is so sweet, and this was her first collaboration. I remember when this first launched, and it was chaos. Shroud Cosmetics is a really small brand. It was literally one woman, and she was pressing every single palette by hand, and they sold out, and they were trying to do like a kind of rolling pre-order, and then she just wasn't able to keep up. She ended up having to close her store temporarily until she could get caught up, and she was able to get a pressing machine and all that jazz. But this palette is beautiful. It's a very grungy kind of Beetlejuice inspired palette. These mattes are like butter. They're so smooth. These shimmers are so shiny and creamy. I mean, look at this. I mean, this formula is stunning. Ooh, I mean, look at this. Oh, I've been wanting to grab their Creepy Cute palettes. Still on my radar. I'm going to have to go wash my hands real quick and then come back and continue on with this. This one I'm going to be decluttering. This is the Black Radiance Brilliant Effects Tribal Palette. This palette was awful. The mattes were like extremely chalky. There was no shine to the shimmers whatsoever. I've heard others tell me that they had a really good experience with this palette, so I'm wondering if it's possible I just got a dud palette. Like maybe this one was part of a bad batch and it's not the same formula as what other people have. I don't know. All I know is that this was not a good palette. I mean, I don't even want to pass this on to anybody. That's how terrible it was. The Nomad Home for the Holidays collection. This one is an all shimmer palette. It has all shimmers except for one matte, which is the black matte. I'm going to go ahead and hang on this for a little bit longer. I think the formula is really pretty. It's a nice one to pull out, like if you're using an all matte palette and you just want to throw a little shimmer in there. This is a good palette to pull out for that. Now, y'all about to be surprised, but, and I never thought I would ever say it, because I was so into the Nomad palettes for so long and was into collecting them all, but the Paradise Islands palette, I just didn't like. I mean, I've seen other people say, wow, this palette was so amazing and blended like butter. But it just didn't work that way for me. Amanda, Makeup Just for Fun, she had a similar experience with her palette that I have in mind. So guess what, you guys? I'm going to be decluttering this palette. Never thought I would declutter a Nomad palette, but here we are. The Spice of Life palette from Zoeva. It's a very pretty, just warm, kind of autumnal palette. Do I want to keep this one? I decluttered the face palette, and it's been a while since I pulled this one out. Let me see. This tone right here is pretty unique to my collection. Alright, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this one. The fall coming up, I know I'll pull this one out a lot more. I'll be hanging on to my Nomad, what is this? The Whistler Lodge palette. This one is pretty. There's some really pretty blues and greens in here. I did enjoy this palette. My Stay Sassy palette from I Love Revolution. This one, I think this is my last Revolution collaboration palette. I just thought this was so cute. I got this one strictly for collecting reasons. I just thought it was adorable. I mean, look at that. I'm going to be decluttering my Juvia's Place Nubian Coral palette. Basically, I'm going to be decluttering all of my Juvia's Place palettes except for one. This one has made it through, I think, 3 declutters. And I have not pulled it out. I mean, it's a pretty, mix of cool and warm tones. I did enjoy this palette, but I haven't pulled it out. I know I'm not going to pull it out again, and somebody else will love having this palette. My Milani Ungilded Most Loved Mattes. I have to admit, I was not very fond of this formula. I found it to be kind of patchy. I don't know what's going on with this mirror. It was like this from the moment I first got this palette. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this. I know I'm not going to use it. I have other mattes that are similar color stories to this one that I know that I'm going to just gravitate to. We're going to go ahead and declutter this one. I'm also going to declutter this one. This is the Orange Pop palette. I got this one from Marshall's, I think it was. This, I think it's pretty obvious what the theming of this is. I got it because it's a pretty orange palette. I love orange. But I'm not really too super fond of this formula, and I know that I'm not going to be pulling it out. This one I'm also going to declutter. When I first reviewed this palette, I loved it. This is the Love for Sale eyeshadow palette from House Laboratories. They have since kind of rebranded. I really liked this palette when I first got it, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not performing the same. There's a shade in here. I think it's this one. Let maybe that's just like really crumbly. Yeah, I think it's this one. That's just like super, super crumbly. Like when you go to like blend it on your eyelid, it's just, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. Like I said, I enjoyed it when I first got it, but I don't know. It's just like all of a sudden it seems like the formula just does not perform the same. I don't know. The OG Urban Decay Born to Run palette. The only reason why I picked this up is because I found a dupe palette and I wanted to do a comparison. I have not really pulled this palette out since I got it. I mean, this is an OG palette. But I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. I know that I'm not going to use it. Like I said, I bought it strictly because of a dupe video that I had wanted to film. I know I'm not going to use it. It's a beautiful palette. Someone else will love it. I am doing really good with this declutter. I knew the ones that were on the wall were not going to... I was not going to declutter many of those because the reason why they're up there is because of the fact that those were some of my favorites. But we're actually doing pretty good with the drawer. This one is the Spanglish palette. This is also from Adhesive Cosmetics. This was in a boxy charm. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one too. The mattes in this one, where is it? I think the Encanto palette was in the other set. Those shimmers I really like. The ones in this one I feel like are a little more crumbly, a little more glittery. And the mattes in here, I don't know, I don't think they perform as well as the other palette. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one because I know somebody out there will love it. It's a really pretty palette, but I know I'm not going to use it. We are almost done, you guys, and it's a good thing because, I don't know, my back could handle sitting here on the floor too much longer. I'm definitely going to be hanging on to my Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. This is the mini palette. It's really pretty little pastels in here. I'm also going to be hanging on to my Gay Bestie palette. This is from JC Camarella. He's, I want to say, a micro influencer, kind of between micro, medium, kind of in there. This was his palette.
Hey Brad, you're going to slay this look. Today is your day, so everything and anything you do is going to be amazing.
The only thing that I wish is that you could turn off that message with every time you open the palette, it says that. When you go on his website, you can order the palette with or without the little voice box thing in it. I just wish there was an option to turn it off. But the formula of this palette, you guys, it is absolutely gorgeous. This has one of my most favorite warm tone neutrals. The shimmers in this palette are to die for. I mean, I wish she was getting more hype because this is a gorgeous palette. I am most definitely not getting rid of my Black Widow palette. This was one of the palettes that Ulta Beauty did right. This is a collaboration with Marvel's Black Widow. This palette is gorgeous. All the shimmers in here are beautiful. The mattes blend like butter. I love this one. And even if I hated it, I love this packaging so much I'd hang on to it anyway. The Rubies palette from Profusion. This was the very first Profusion palette I think I ever got. This is a really beautiful red toned palette. These reds are like true reds. You know, sometimes you have the problem of you see a red, you blend on your eyelid and instantaneously turns pink. These are true reds. Beautiful palette. This right here is the only Juvia's Place palette that I'm going to be keeping. This is the Nomad. This is a really pretty grungy color story, and I don't really have anything like this in my collection, and I do like the formula in this palette in particular. So this is the one and only Juvia's Place eyeshadow palette I'm going to be hanging on to. We have a few more and then we're going to be done. This is the Pure X Raw Beauty collaboration. This one is a double-sided palette. So one side has some really pretty neutrals, and then the other side it's a little bit more colorful. What I wish is that there were more shimmers in here. On each side there is only one shimmer and it's in the middle of the palette. And the Pure eyeshadow formula, I will admit, is not my favorite. This is not the most blendable formula, but it is a Raw Beauty Christie collaboration. You cannot get this again, so I would definitely be hanging on to this. This one I'm going to declare. This is from Trim Beauty. I got this for a full face of products from Shop Cherry. It is a really pretty neutral palette. I'm not saying that I don't like the formula, but I have so many other palettes that I just enjoy more. So we're going to go ahead and pull this one out. And then our very last palette. The very last one. Had to do a little triple take just to make sure. This is the Love Is Eternal eyeshadow palette. Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. This was a collaboration. This is also a Hot Topic palette, rather. This is beautiful. Now, the formula kind of sucks. So I'm not really fond of this formula. It's kind of patchy. The shimmers are kind of meh. But this cover is so pretty. I don't know if you can see, but these are raised. I like to pull this one out at Halloween as part of my, my Halloween makeup decor. So I'm going to be keeping this as more of a decor piece, not necessarily for something I'm actually going to use, but it is beautiful. I almost forgot about the Wander Beauty palette that I had put aside to decide if I wanted to declutter it. I am going to go ahead and declutter it. I did enjoy it. I used it a couple of times, and I enjoyed the looks that I put together with it, but yeah, I know that I'm not really going to pull this, so we're going to go ahead and declutter it. And that is it for this declutter. We have gone through everything. We have gone through all of the drawers. We have gone through everything on the wall, on the vanity, that stack that I had sitting on the floor. It's not a huge declutter, but I think I did make enough room to be able to put some more palettes in here whenever those come in, because I do have some more palettes that are on the way. What I'm going to do now is just kind of rearrange everything, put everything in order by brand, and then just start, putting everything back. It's going to be pretty much rearranged so that everything is looking a little bit neater, but let's go on ahead and start putting everything away. Alright guys, so that is it for the huge eyeshadow palette collection and declutter. As you can see, this drawer is pretty much empty except for these palettes, so I have plenty of room to grow. What I did was, in these drawers, this is everything that I know that I'm going to want to pull on a regular basis. I was actually able to put some sideways like this to kind of grab instead of them all being flat, which I love. It actually gives me a little bit more room as well. And then all the collectible ones, the ones that I know that I'm not going to be pulling very often, those are up on the display shelves in the wall, so you'll be seeing those in the background. I am really happy, you guys, with how this declutter came out. I didn't declutter a whole lot, but I made room, which was the number one thing that I wanted to do. So now we have room to grow. I am very, very happy with how everything came out. There will be one more declutter coming. That is going to be my lip declutter. I'm going to be decluttering my liquid lipsticks, glosses, and my bullet lipsticks all in the same video. I don't have a ton of them, so I'll be able to get through those pretty quickly. I'm not sure when that one will go up, but I'm working on that one as well. If you enjoyed this declutter series, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. It really does help my channel. If you're new to my channel, you're not already subscribed, I would love it if you would consider joining my little family and hitting subscribe. You can also follow me on my other socials. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Be safe, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.